Imagine a vast, sun-scorched plain in eastern Anatolia. The date is August 26, 1071. The air is thick with the dust of 1,000 charging horses and the metallic scent of a battle just ended. This is man, and on this field, the fate of empires has just been decided. The powerful Byzantine army, one of the most formidable forces of its time, has been shattered. Their emperor, Romanos Diogenes, is now a captive. This isn't just another battle. It's a turning point in history. The Battle of Manzikert would famously open the gates of Anatolia to the Turks, setting in motion a chain of events that would reshape the world map, lead to the Crusades, and ultimately see the rise of the Ottoman Empire. But our story today isn't about the grand sweep of history. It's about a single, intensely personal moment that took place in the immediate aftermath of the chaos, a moment of unexpected humanity inside a simple Turkmen tent. Join me as we step back in time to witness the extraordinary encounter between two of the most powerful men of the 11th century. The Sultan Alp Arslan of the great Seljuk Empire and the vanquished emperor Romanos Diogenes of the Byzantine Empire. This is the story of a meeting that has echoed through the ages, a testament to chivalry, mercy, and the complex nature of power. The Seljuk camp was a whirlwind of activity. Victory drums beat a triumphant rhythm that echoed across the plain, mixing with the neighing of horses and the shouts of celebration. Fires were being lit, their smoke curling into the twilight sky, signaling not just the end of a day, but the dawn of a new era for the Turks in Anatolia. Yet, at the heart of this victorious chaos, there was a pocket of profound silence and anticipation. Inside the Sultan's personal tent, the atmosphere was heavy with the weight of history. This was no opulent palace. It was a simple, functional Turkmen yurt, its walls adorned with Turkish banners and the gleaming blades of The floor was covered with a richly patterned but practical rug, a nod to the nomadic heritage of the Seljuk people. On a low wooden table, a copy of the Quran lay open, its pages seeming to radiate a quiet authority, a reminder of the principles of justice and mercy that were meant to guide a ruler. Sultan Alp Arslan sat not on a gilded throne, but on the rug itself, in the traditional manner of his people. He wore his Seljuk crown, a symbol of his imperial status, yet his simple Turkmen boots, dusty from the battlefield, grounded him. He was a conqueror, a victorious lion, as his name suggested, but he was also a leader of his people, deeply connected to their customs. His Turkish beys, the commanders who had helped him achieve this stunning victory, stood respectfully near the entrance, their faces a mixture of pride and curiosity. Then the tent flap was pulled aside. 2 guards escorted a figure into the Sultan's presence. It was Emperor Romanos Diogenes, but he was not the resplendent ruler of Constantinople. His imperial cloak, once a magnificent symbol of Roman power, was torn and stained with the grime of battle. He was wounded, exhausted, and stripped of his dignity. The man who, just hours before, had commanded an army of tens of thousands, now stood as a prisoner before his rival. He was unchained, a small but significant detail. The physical bonds had been removed. Now, he faced the judgment of his conqueror. The Byzantine commanders who had been captured alongside him watched from the tent's entrance, their expressions a mix of despair for their emperor and apprehension for their own fate. For a moment, a tense silence filled the tent. The sounds of celebration from outside seemed to fade away. All eyes were on the 2 leaders. Romanos, expecting the worst humiliation, torture, or a swift execution, the common fate of captured rulers, braced himself. But Alp Arslan did not gloat. He did not mock his fallen foe. Instead, he looked at Romanos, and something shifted in the air. The Sultan, the mighty conqueror, slowly rose to his feet. This was the focal point, the moment frozen in time. The victor and the vanquished locked eyes. In that case, they were not just a sultan and an emperor, but 2 men who had gambled everything on this day. Then Alp Arslan did something that stunned everyone present. He walked towards Romanos Diogenes, and he extended his hand. He gestured for the defeated emperor to rise, to stand before him not as a slave, but as a fellow monarch, albeit one who had lost Some historical accounts even say Alp Arslan helped raise the emperor himself, a profound gesture of respect. This act was more powerful than any sword or any victory cry. It was a lesson in humanity, a demonstration of a code of conduct that would become a cornerstone of the Turco-Islamic concept of chivalry. In a world where brutality was the norm, this display of grace was revolutionary. It showed that true power wasn't just about winning battles, but about how you treated the defeated. The conversation that followed is one of history's most fascinating dialogues. Alp Arslan, now seated again, is said to have asked Romanos, "What would you have done if I were brought before you as a prisoner?" Romanos ever, the proud Roman, reportedly replied bluntly, "Perhaps I'd have killed you, or else paraded you in the streets of Constantinople." Alp Arslan listened to this harsh truth without anger. He then responded, "My punishment is far heavier. I forgive you, and I set you free." This exchange reveals the chasm between their two worlds. Romanos' answer reflected the brutal political reality of Byzantium, where fallen emperors were often dealt with mercilessly. Alp Arslan's response, however, was a masterstroke of both mercy and political strategy. It was magnanimous, but it also placed Romanos in a position of immense obligation. The Sultan's treatment of the emperor was exemplary throughout his captivity. He treated Romanos not as a prisoner, but as an honored guest. They ate together, discussed matters of state, and negotiated a peace treaty. Alp Arslan offered Romanos a treaty that was surprisingly lenient. He demanded a significant ransom, an annual tribute, and the surrender of several key border fortresses, including the fateful city of Manzikert itself. But crucially, he offered to release Romanos and recognize him as the legitimate Byzantine emperor. This wasn't just about kindness. Alp Arslan was a shrewd statesman. He understood that a humiliated and executed emperor could become a martyr, uniting the Byzantines against him. A released, indebted emperor, however, could be a valuable, if unstable, ally. He hoped that a grateful Romanos would ensure the treaty's terms were met and maintain peace on the border, allowing the Seljuks to focus on other fronts. After a week in the Seljuk camp, Romanos was given a Turkish honor guard and sent on his way back to his empire, laden with gifts from the Sultan. Alp Arslan's plan, however, would be undone by the treacherous politics of Constantinople. While Romanos was a captive, his rivals back home had seized power. They declared him deposed and crowned a new emperor. When Romanos returned, he was no longer a ruler returning to his throne, but a rival claimant in a bitter civil war. The tragic irony is that Romanos, the man who had received such incredible mercy from his foreign enemy, found none from his own people. He was eventually captured by his Byzantine rivals, and in a brutal betrayal, he was publicly blinded. The wounds became infected, and he died a short time later in agony. When news of Romanos' cruel fate reached Alp Arslan, he was said to have been deeply angered and saddened. The chivalrous peace he had tried to build had been destroyed not by his own actions, but by the internal strife of the very empire he had defeated. The story of this meeting in the tent at Manzikert is so much more than a historical footnote. It's a powerful drama that plays out on a human scale. The simple Turkmen tent becomes a stage for an epic encounter. The open Quran symbolizes a justice tempered with mercy. The removed chains represent the triumph of humanity over the base instincts of vengeance, and the victory fires, burning outside, visible from the tent's opening, signify the dawn of a new era, one that was beginning not just with conquest, but with an act of extraordinary grace. Alp Arslan's gesture became a legendary example of leadership in the Turkic and Islamic world. It demonstrated that a ruler's greatness is measured not only by the scale of his victories, but by the depth of his character. He secured a place in history not just as the conqueror who opened Anatolia, but as the Sultan who raised a fallen emperor, teaching the world a timeless lesson about dignity in both victory and defeat. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the incredible moments that have shaped our world. Let me know in the comments what you think of Alp Arslan's actions. Was it pure chivalry or a clever strategy? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time,